morning, friends. It is a cold and damp, I'd say spring morning. There's not much spring about. It has been cold this month. We are Wednesday the 28th of April, year of our Lord 2021, and we've not really hit any warmth yet, have we? But today is my day off from Royal Mail, so I'm able to work in the guitar shop all day, and we have a new project on the bench, and what a beautiful guitar this is. And without further ado, let me show it to you. There you go. Yep, it's a real thing. It's a Gibson ES339, made in 2020, made in the USA. And boy, is this light. Totally not for me, guitar this light at all. But very nice top on there. What wood is that? Do you know? I don't know. Look at the back. Very nice pattern to it. I'm not even going to guess at what type of wood that might be. I would imagine that the neck is mahogany and the fingerboard is rosewood of some sort. Weedy-ish frets, nibs on the edge of the binding there, on the binding. Don't like nibs myself. If you ever need a refret with this, nibs have to come off. But yeah, nice looking guitar, 2 volume, 2 tone, 3-way switch, and it's coming for a setup. I doubt it's had a setup before because the setup is not that good. New client, by the way. It's meant to bring 2 in, really bought 1 in, but looking straight at it, I said to him straight away, it's too much relief in that neck, so we'll definitely sort that out. But yeah, lovely looking thing. I have no need for one of these guitars myself. It's why I don't own one. I'm more of a double cut. I do like a double cut, don't get me wrong, but I also like single cut, so I'm probably more of a Les Paul man. Saying that, I don't have a Les Paul either. I do have a 2006 Hamer Studio, which is an amazing guitar. All ends up beats a Gibson in my mind. But anyway, let's get back to this. So it's coming for a setup. Tunematic bridge looks absolutely fine. Nice quality saddles on there. Tailpiece looks standard but fine. Grover tuners, not staggered, just standard Grover tuners. Looks very nice. Nice sized neck, quite thick. Just feeling up and down there. There's a dent in the back there, a couple of small dents here, and you can just feel them ever so slightly with my hand. But apart from that, looks to be in really good condition. Like I say, it's a 2020 model. Lad's boarded in for a setup, and that is what I'm going to do. So before I come back, I'm going to plug this in, have a little sample, see what it sounds and plays like. Then I'm going to do the setup with these old strings on. Get it set up right. Then we're going to remove the strings, we're going to look at the frets, we're going to clean and tidy everything up, make sure the setup is bang on. And once that's all done, we will put a new set. Oh, we're going to polish the frets, treat the fingerboard, and we'll bang some new strings on there. Nut seems to be a composite resin type of affair. Maybe it is a Graftech. Looks to be that kind of stuff. It'll have a new bone or tusk, TUSQ, which is a man-made bone. Derivative. It's not derivative, it's a replication of bone but using man-made materials, so that should be self-lubricating. Looks to be like a Graftech type affair. So yeah, very nice guitar to look at. If anything, I'd like to see slightly bigger frets on here. Another thing I don't like about the frets when you've got nibs on a guitar is the frets tend to be flat. I don't like flat frets at all. And I don't like weedy frets, these are quite weedy. I'd like to see some medium jumbos on there. But end of the day, that's just my preference. Everything else about it looks to be standard. I don't know how much these retail for. Just see what it says in there. No. Nashville, Tennessee, USA, which it should say. That's all fine and dandelions. Yeah, all good. So let me crack on, alter the setup a bit, get it plugged in, and I'll come back and let you know what I find. A couple of things. There is not enough adjustment on the saddles to get the intonation right. Now, a good thing about these type of bridges is you can turn these saddles around. Now, if you see here closely, these saddles do have a slope on one side, and you can turn that around, and that gives you another 2 millimeters of adjustment coming this way. So these, at least 3 of these, the D, G and B, I'm going to turn round. So you're going to have 5 with the flat bit facing that way, and just a top E with a flat bit facing that way. That gives us more adjustment. So we're going to sort that out, we're going to rectify that. Also, there's far too much relief in the neck, we're going to rectify that. So that's things I can do now. I've had the guitar plugged in, sounds nice, plays well, but it will need a setup. It doesn't play as well as it could, obviously, because there's too much relief in there and the intonation is not right, so it doesn't sound quite right anyway. A bugbear with these guitars for me has always been the way this pickup slopes back like that. I've never liked that. It's not the right pickup ring on this, a slanted one. It should have a flat one in my mind. But yeah, but one thing we can get these saddles adjusted, we'll just take the bridge off, we'll flip the saddle, pull the saddles out, flip them around the opposite way. It means unscrewing the saddle from the screw, turning it round, putting the screw back in and placing it back in the bridge. So not anything major there, but some of the saddles here are not sat right. That is never going to help with intonation. The A string it's actually sat up, it's trying to pop out. Rest of it, pretty straightforward, nothing difficult there. I will, however, be checking the frets once the strings are off. I'm going to measure the strings in a minute to make sure they are a 1046 set, which I expect them to be, which means I can replace the strings, not a problem. I have plenty of 1046s in stock, Diodarios. But yeah, that is where we are right now. Another update shortly. So I removed the truss rod cover, and the owner of this guitar has this Gibson multi-tool type of affair. I'm not a fan of these. They're supposed to be a jack of all trades, but I find that if you use a tool, it tends to wobble all over the place like that. So I'm not particularly a fan, but I've used that and that's pretty much okay. It fits the truss rod nut with a little bit of wiggling, and I'm just altering the truss rod just to get the right amount of relief under the neck. And I'm looking for about 0.25 millimeters under the 7th fret, which is here. And if you hear this and watch, it's just touching the knot straight edge. So we have the right amount of relief in there now, so we can remove that. For those of you who don't know what relief is, it's the gap. It's like a smiley, it's in that kind of shape along the neck. Instead of having it dead straight, we'll put a little bit of relief in there so these strings can vibrate more. And I go about 0.25 millimeters under the 7th fret, which is, for me, the perfect amount. So other things we need to look at is the height of the strings above the 1st fret. I can already tell that these are too high, but we don't cut them yet. We're going to do that later. So we now have a neck set correctly, or how I would like it set. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the gap from the top of the 12th fret to the bottom of the string. And again, the way I measure these may not be the same way that other people measure them. People are saying, oh, you should press it here and press it where it joins the body and measure the relief here and this, that and the other. And everyone's got their own ways. Like America's got their own way. They measure everything in imperial or fractions of inch, not fractions of inches, because yeah, fractions of inches. We don't in England, we are metric. I don't measure it that way anyway. I measure it the way I measure it, and I've never had a guitar come back with a bad setup. So I set the gap from, on the bass side, 1.75 millimeters, that's from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. And on the treble side, 1.5 millimeters, again, top of the fret to bottom of the string. And I measure that even with the nut cut wrong, because that's a good guide. Now what I do is, later on, when it comes to setting up the guitar, if I know I need to cut the nut slots to bring the strings lower here, I will set this to 2 millimeters and that's to 1.75. And when I remove material from the nut, this will automatically drop. And it normally drops in the right place or thereabouts. Like I say, we all have our own methods and ways of doing things. My way has never let me down. You know, and other guitar techs, luthiers, what have you, will have their own methods to setting the right amount of action. So we're 1.5 on the treble side, we're about just under 2 on the bass side, which is fine, that's decent. We could go a little bit lower. Because I know I need to cut these nut slots a little bit deeper, I'm actually going to leave this at 2, and I'm going to raise this to 1.75 this side, and that is going to be my set action. Now I might struggle to do this here with the strings at tension. Oh no, I can move it, we're there. Because once I bring these nut slots down, lower the strings there, they're going to lower here as well. And we can always set the right action once we've got the nut slots done. So I'm just going to measure here. Well, we're about 1.6 that side, we're just under 2 this side, that's absolutely fine. I know we're not going to be in tune because I have just altered the truss rod. I'm going to check truss rod again, that's a chance to settle. Don't believe his hype about you to let it settle overnight. bull crap. 5 minutes is perfect for setting your truss rod. It doesn't take long. And that, my friends, is perfect. So we've got that where it needs to be. So with everything set more or less how it should be, I've got to remember to alter the saddles. Now the A-string is fine, it's these three that will not alternate correctly. So I'm going to turn these 3 saddles around. So we're going to get onto that next. So let's remove these strings. And if these strings aren't in that bad a condition, I'm going to save the top E and the B string because I'm short of those. I like to save good old ones just to set up guitars. You know, when I'm doing a pre-setup say for instance I need to cut a nut or whatever, I'll use some slightly used strings to do the setup, and once everything's set up how I want it, then I'll stick a new set on. Because that way you're not wasting, if you're doing a pre-setup using brand new strings and you snap one, you're using 2 sets, aren't you? So these 4 I'm not bothered about, the bottom 4 strings, so we can just snip them anyway. Because they go in the bin. Got plenty of those knocking about. Same with this one. But I'm going to save the B and the E string. Because I'm short of those. I'm short of 9s and 10s actually. I do actually keep spare 9s and 10s anyway. I do snap quite a few strings when tuning in and stretching them in. Just happens. Some strings are more made better than others. I had to stop using British made rotor sounds. I'd love to stay with them, but I found they always snapped at the ball end more than any other string. I don't know why we did that, they just happened to do it for me, so I'd stop buying them. So that's those 4 done, and I'm going to just unwind the B and the E because I will be sticking them aside. I'm one of these people that works, when he works, he likes to, if he's not using the tools, he likes to put them away or out of the way so we don't drop anything on a guitar and mark it. How do I know that's a good thing to do? Well, I've done it in the past. I've dropped a tool on a guitar before and it's not good. It's cost me a lot of money to get it put right. So I can't do spraying and painting here, so I have to outsource that kind of work, and I have to pay a premium to do so. Obviously, I do get a reduced rate with a few painters, but it's still an expense we could do without. So I'm not one for lifting tools over guitars anymore. I still need to slightly rearrange this workshop to work better for me, but there's no tools over here I need to drag over, bar this not straight edge, and I could do with somewhere down here for that. I do have space under this table now, I've moved some things around. Anyway, let's get back to subject. Okay, so these strings I'll stick in my spares box. Don't like these. These should have a spring on this so they don't ping out, but they don't. So let's first deal with the saddles. So remembering that screws go that way, so these, we can turn these saddles around. I'm going to move the guitar out of the way, and I'm going to show you how we do that. I'm going to do that on camera right here, right now. Stick that out of the way. So I do need to move these 1, 2, 3. Let's just take a non-permanent marker and just mark these areas off so I know which ones I'm turning. I'm just going to put a red dot on each of these 3, and that wipes off. It's not a permanent marker. So all I'm going to need to do is remove these 3. I'll show you a close up in a minute. I'm going to remove these 3 and I'm going to turn these saddles around. So let's remove 1. And if I loosen it, so this should just lift out in a moment. And of course it's not, that one's lifted out, the A string just pops straight out, which is about right. Don't need the A string one, do I? So I'm going to try and just pop that off, and there you go, that one's popped off. The A string is absolutely fine, just playing up. I'll have to set that intonation again. You do get some of these spring loaded, it depends what brand you get, but this, here you go. And let me show you. And there is the saddle, and you see there is a slanted bit there. We're going to turn that round and give us, because we don't have enough adjustment this way in that direction. So we need to turn that round, and that'll bring this flat edge where the string sits, it'll turn it round. So all we're going to do is take the screw out, turn the saddle round, put the screw back in, and now the flat part is further away, and now that will give us enough adjustment for the intonation. So you see what I did there? So I can stick that one back in, and I already know this needs to go more or less to the back of the bridge. And I've now got more adjustment. So that's one done, two more to do. Again, we're just going to turn the saddle around. Not tricky at all. But some of these bridges you can't do this on. Gibson, you're actually fine to do it on. So again, back in. One more, the B string. I've actually got 5 facing backwards. We normally could do a 3-3. 3 backwards, 3 forwards, but it never works. You always end up adjusting or altering a few. Last one. And now we're going to have enough adjustment to set the intonation correctly, which is always a good thing. I didn't measure them strings before I chucked them in the bin, did I? I'll measure the top 2 and see what they're saying. If we're a 10 and a 13, I know it's a 1046 set. Go back to the bin and get them out. Always an option. So what we're going to do next, now the strings are off, the neck should be more or less straight if it's not under tension. So we're going to make sure these screws are now sat right. The A string wasn't. The A string was actually popped up. This one here, it was actually popped up a little bit like that, which means it wasn't sat right anyway. But now we're sat right. We have a nice radius. It should be a 12-inch radius. And that could go back on the guitar right now, but it's not going to, because I'm going to be moving the guitar about. But that will be absolutely fine now. We've now got more adjustment, because I've got the flat part of the saddle to the back. We've now got more adjustment, I've got more adjustment that way with the flat parts this way. I've only left the top E facing the opposite way. So we have more adjustment that way, which is what we need to set the intonation. So that's all fine and dandy. So let's start putting all of the parts for this guitar in its own pot. We always have a pot for a guitar when we're working on it. There you go, and that's all the bits going in there, and that's the tool going in there, so that's absolutely fine. So now again we're going to go and look at the neck. Normally when you take the strings off, you haven't got a string tension, the neck is going to straighten up because it's not having 60 kilograms of pressure pulling the neck up this way, so it normally flattens out. Now I normally find that if you've got the right amount of relief set in the neck, when you take the string tension off, it normally straightens perfectly straight. Doesn't always, but most of the time it is. And that's how I know how to set a Strat neck when the adjuster's at this end. What I do is I set it dead straight with strings off, with the truss rod just nipped, put the strings on it, and brings the right amount of relief. Saves you faffing about having to set the neck off every 2 minutes and try it again. So let's have a quick look. And that, my friends, proves my point. That neck is now dead straight. Very good. So with the neck dead straight, what we're going to do is now we're going to check the frets for level. And to do so, let me just might need a bit of extra light in the room, that's all. Not specifically aimed toward the guitar, it just brightens up the back area. So what we're going to do is we're going to take what we call a fret rocker. This is made by GMI, my favourite tool maker from Greece. Precision made fret rocker with 4 precision straight edges. The reason we're 4 different lengths is we do 3 frets at a time. So as we go along the neck, we turn the tool over so we can always check 3 frets. The reason we do that is if we have a high spot anywhere, this will rock. And you'll see what I mean if we find one. Now I'm hoping not to find any, because if they don't find any, we aren't only need attention. It's a quicker job for me, and it's a cheaper job for the owner. So let's have a look. And I'm not expecting them to be completely level. but it'd be nice if there were. So far so good. Now, do brand new fenders come plecked? Go on a pleck machine. It's supposed to be a computerised way of levelling frets. So far so good, my friends. And if it doesn't need no fret work, I will be flabbergasted and very, very happy. Because it means the job is a lot easier for me. And so far so good. I've never had a spot on level brand new Gibson in this workshop that I can recall. But so far, my friends, these frets are spot on. Well, one little rock there, that's fine. I'll sort that out. Just find out what fret it is. It's fret 16, right in the middle there. This, my friends, is fabulous. We have level frets, bar fret 16. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to charge him £5 extra for that fret. That's it. And all we're going to do is we're going to level it, we're going to crown it, we're going to polish it, and I'm going to get all of the files I need to do so. 3 separate files. And because there's only one fret needed, I don't need to level them all that way. I just need to spot level that one in that direction. And all we're going to do is, and don't forget, £5 might seem a lot for me spending 5 minutes on this. But end of the day, you're not paying just for my time, you're paying for my level of expertise, my experience, my knowledge, and my workmanship. £5 a fret's pretty good. Ripping fantastic if you ask me. So, again, fret 16, just check. Just rocking right in that area, and we're going to find out exactly where it's rocking from. Oh, it's rocking from there. So I take a permanent marker now. I'm going to mark where the rock starts. I'm going to mark where the rock ends. And there, and it's right in the middle. It's 15-20 millimeters right in the middle there. So that's the area we need to level. That is really fabulous news, by the way. So this area, just as wide as the file, I'm going to level. Now the file I'm using for this one is my Swiss made Valorb number 4 cut file. It is very sharp but very smooth. It's a fantastic cut, number 4 cut, smooth as anything. And we're just going to basically, in this direction, keep the file level. I'd normally take this up if I was doing the lot, in case I do rock with the file and scratch the fingerboard, but I ain't going to. I don't have a body in the way, and all I'm going to do is follow the radius. I'm just going to swipe over that area, and we're just going to come back and check every few strokes. We're still rocking, clean the file, keep going again, and I'll just steady the file with my fingers so I don't wobble. And all we're doing is we don't want to go too low because we'll be levelling the lot. And there you go, that is that high spot has been removed. And that's fantastic. Now because I've gone that way and I've slightly flattened the fret across the top there, we're going to rebuild that crown going in that direction. Imagine a C shape on its side, like that. That's the shape of a fret top. We've slightly flattened it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 files now just to re-crown that one fret. First one I'm going to use is my StuMac Z file. Now if you look closely, closest to you at the bottom there's a long cut, and here on this side there's a short cut. I'll flip it over 180 degrees, closest to you is a short cut, closest to me is a long cut. So imagine one cut goes long that way and one cut goes sharp but short that way. Then when you turn it over it goes that way and that way. And what this does is this will not touch the top of the fret, so you're not going to remove any height from the fret. You're just going to slightly start to reshape it. It's not going to cut a perfect semicircle, but it's going to start you off well. And all we're going to do is just a few strokes. It is a diamond file. It will cut really quickly. But like I say, it will not touch the top of the fret. which is fantastic. We know we've cut because we're getting a little bit of residue from the file. Now we're cleaning it, and that's that one's job done. Clean this file also, and all we're going to do now with the last file, this has got the actual concave shape in it already. Again, a diamond file. I believe this is made by Elmer. This is a gift to me from Nigel Roberts in Thringston a few years ago, and it's a great file and I love it. And this will remove any unevenness or any burrs, and all we're going to do is go to the side, far side, near side, slightly angled, then just straight over the top, and that now will be perfectly recrowned. And that one is done. That is it. Now you will notice, if you've got a keen eye, you will notice that this fret is a lot shinier than the rest of them now. That's because they all need polishing. And that is going to be the next thing I'm going to do. So with that one fret done, £5 for that, job done. Now all the frets are perfectly level with each other. Doesn't need any more work. I am very happy that it doesn't need a fret level, because it makes my job a lot easier, makes it a lot quicker, and it means that he's only going to pay £55 for his setup, 50 quid for the setup, £5 for the fret. Job done. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to condition the fingerboard. So we're going to grab us, we're going to just colour this area there. And here, and we're going to just spray some what you know as lemon oil. It's actually a mineral oil, specially formulated for the darker wood or wooded necks on guitars. And this is going to, once I've sprayed it in, I don't know why I use a spray bottle anymore, it's no good. I'm going to rub this in and let it sit for 5-10 minutes. And this, any dirt, grease or what have you, this will penetrate into the wood. It'll slightly nourish the wood, which is great, stops it cracking. And it'll, any grime on there, it'll float to the top. We're going to rub off later with a cloth. If we have to, if we really have to, we'll scrape the fingerboard with a Stanley blade. I don't think we're going to have to, it's relatively clean, it's just a little bit dry. But we're going to let this do its magic. It smells nice as well. That's why I call it lemon oil. It's not lemon oil, it's mineral oil, specially formulated, but it has a hint of some lemon zest in there, or lemon essence in there, just to make it smell nice. And we're going to let that do its magic, 10-15 minutes. I'm going to go and put the kettle on, make myself a cup of tea while this is doing what it's doing. And what I'll also do is, when this has been on a few minutes, I will polish the frets. Now, polishing the frets, I will be using steel wool, and because I'm using steel wool, the magnets in the pickups are going to attract the filings. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover these pickups with some low tack Scotch 3M tape. This gubbins, about £8 a roll, this, not cheap, but well worth it. And this will still attract filings, but it will not go in the pickup, and we can brush them off. Just make sure everything is protected and sealed, so none of the filings can get into the pickup at all. That's beautiful. And we'll just brush them off a bit later. And there you go. I'm not even going to get any over this area, but if we get any filings on there, we'll just brush them off. My job will be a good one. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. One thing I've started doing lately is, I just hit the strap in with that there, so don't worry about it, we haven't knocked anything, we haven't scratched anything. I'm going to show you, what I do, what I was saying was, what I do lately is, I tend to not keep starting my video now, I just let it run. So you're in effect seeing a live video. I do get commented on the video, people say they're really good. Now I don't know how or why, none of this is planned, I just basically turn the camera on and I prattle what I'm going to speak about. I just talk, that is it. But there you go. This is what you call a fingerboard guard. We call them a fret guard, but they're not guarding your frets, we're guarding your fingerboard. One thinner one up this end, one fatter one down this end. And with that, I've got a piece of steel wool I've already used. I'm going to break this in half because The oil will penetrate this, and I won't be able to use it again. But that's a clean bit, so I'm going to save the clean bit for a dry guitar later on. But here we go. Extra fine steel wool. And all I'm going to do with this is, with the guard on there, just pinch it over the fret and just polish over the fret, like so. And that's going to remove all the grime that's on there, but we're not going to touch the fingerboard. So that oil's still doing its stuff underneath. Blah de blah de blah. You get how this works. It's really simple. There's nothing difficult about what I do. You just got to be methodical and do it like step by step. But there you go. That's that. So, like I say, I'm going to go and put the kettle on. We do like a cup of tea in this house, and I'm going to let that settle 5-10 minutes. And once that's done, we'll come back in. We'll get some strings on, and we'll start getting this guitar set up. Things you don't always see when I'm doing a setup, and it's things like these, tightening up these tuner screws, and they're always loose. Not all of them, but most of them are loose. I don't get why these are 10mm when everything else on a Gibson guitar is Imperial. Yet we have a 10mm nut on these. I'd prove it's 10mm by showing you the spanner. Never quite got that. I've had a couple of French cars in my lifetime, but I had a Peugeot 406, an old one, years ago. And it had every nut and bolt size imaginable. Not your regular standards like you go in cars nowadays, 17, 19, 13, 10s, but everything in between. 18s, 21s, 20s, 14s, 15s, all sorts. And I never got that. You know, never understood that. So I've never had a French car since, I don't think. Oh, it might have been a Citroen. I've had two. I had a Peugeot 406 and I had a Citroen, one of them, I don't know what you call them nowadays. Then with the up and down suspension, weird looking thing, long like a bloody narrowboat they were, like a cheap Volvo. But the suspension on them was amazing, just to go up and down in that. Can't remember what they were called. I had one of them for a while. But yeah, every size nut and bolt possible. The engines were angled back about 19 degrees. It was a stupid idea. You could never go into anything. But well, I'll have one of them again. And I haven't. In fact, I have a German car at the moment, a Jaguar. How ironic is that? I have an S-Type, a 2006 S-Type, which I bought at Christmas. I would have loved it to be 4-wheel drive, but we don't do 4-wheel drive in that model. The only 4-wheel drive model we do is the X-Type. I didn't want an X-Type because that's basically a Mondeo. They don't look that brilliant. They certainly don't look like a Jag. But my wife might be getting one oddly because she wants a 4-wheel drive, and I'm going to need a 4-wheel drive in winter time. But anyway, I love my S-Type. But like I say, we're a German car basically. But it is the last, in my mind, the last nice shaped Jaguar, because it looks like a Jag. It looks like, you know, based on the 60s model with the big round front grille, like an archway. And I'm looking at it now, it's fantastic, brilliant car. And I'll stick with that till I move to Canada in a few years. But yeah, how do I get talking about cars? Here we go again. Anyway, back to where we are. Just tighten them up. We're going to flip the guitar. We're going to look at the back of the tuners, and we're just going to move that eyeglass out of the way. We're just going to check these screws on back of the tuners here, make sure they're tight, and you know what we can always do with the extra 16th of a turn, as these are having. And then other things we'll do, we'll look at the these strap pins, check the size of the knot, screw, sorry. And we'll just give that a little nip there, and this one a little nip. And that really is it. We're not done yet. We do have to cut the nut slots, check the nut slots on the well, we're not, obviously. What am I thinking? A few knocks on back of this neck here, a couple of dents here and there. But yeah, everything's done. Just getting it a wipe over. And so all we really got to do now is get some strings on. fingerboard has been treated, frets have been polished. Get this back to more or less where we want to be. We're going to look at the truss rod should be fine. So we have swapped around these 3 saddles, so the flat bits at the back, so it gives us more adjustment at this end where we need it. And pop that back on there. See what brand we are here. Don't know, it just says advanced plating on that. Gibson ABR1, I thought it'd be an ABR. There you go. Standard. Standard doesn't mean crap, standard means standard. You go and get a Hamer standard guitar, it'll be the best guitar you've ever picked up, because they're standard, they set their marker quite high, well very high. And their Explorer shape, or Explorer shape guitar is called the Standard, and what an amazing piece of kit that is. Probably one of the best Explorer guitars on the planet in my mind. Right, okay, so let's look at some strings. 942s, 1052s, 1149s, that set's gone. I've got one set of them left, they're going on a Telecaster I'm working on, basically a rebuild project. 1046s, here we go, there we go. I buy these in bulk, I bought 30 sets last time I bought some, and there you go. One set in that box. All the strings we're going with. Again, tools out of the way, away from the guitar, we're not really breaking anything. Get them all over on the bench. That thing I'm not even going to be using that. Someone on this video is going to say, this guy says he doesn't lift tools over his guitar, then he's just moved some scissors over the top. Some right idiots on the old YouTube there. Get some right comments sometimes, I just ignore them. All the negative ones. There's no point in responding to them. But anyway, let's get some strings on. I always start with the bass string first because that's going to hold this on. Just hold it in place. And again, we all string our own way. This is the way I string. I like wraps round poles, round the tuning pegs. I'm not into locking tuners, I must mention this 1,000 times a minute on my videos. You know what I'm saying. Locking tuners for me, they just mean you have less wraps. They are, to me, they're a false economy, because you've got half a wrap round a post, but the thing is, when you lock them, it creates a sharp point on these holes here. And when you loosen them, say you're doing a setup, you loosen them, you tighten them again, in my mind, they're always snap. I've had so many snap with locking tuners. So once it's snapped, you've got to replace the string. Use these, put a couple of wraps around. If it snaps anyway, well, they don't snap. They just tend to hold better, in my mind. People falsely think that locking tuners help you keep better tuning. They don't. They just lock your string. They don't alter tuning stability. It's all tuner's a tuner. Your tuning stability is based on the ratio. Like most winders or most tuners are about 14:1 ratio. But your better ones are 18:1s. And your Gotos and stuff, and your Charlas. But locking tuners, I'm not a fan. I do actually have a set of locking tuners to go on it. I actually bought them from a guy who's got a guitar in with me, and he didn't fit his guitar properly. I says, you don't need these, you need to go and get some proper Gotos. So he got the Gotos, wondering what I was going to do with the Vanson ones he bought, and I says, you know what, I'll have them off you. So I paid him what he paid for them, 33 quid. I don't know what guitar they're going on, but I've got plenty of telly parts, necks and bodies knocking about, and strap bodies and strap necks knocking about, so I'm about to build something soon. Or not build, but knock myself up a parts caster. What did I do with that cutter? There you go. This is why you should always put your tools back in place. You see here, look, I've got 2 good winds around there. 2 winds around that post. That's beautiful. And these will stick to the side. So I tend to go 2 outside ones on there. And then that's your stop toe piece held on, and then I can look to see if this strings are hitting the back of the ABR bridge. If they are, we're going to bring this stop toe piece up a little bit till this is not hitting. Although actually this has still got the plastic protective coating on the pick guard. Is it pick guard or is it scratch plate? I never know which word to use properly. Does it matter? Don't think it does, you know. So anyway, this one like a few more winds, so I tend to hold you up round about there, and I'll bend back. I won't just bend back and leave it there. I'll bend it back, then I'll bend it back fully, proper, so it does not pop back out. And there you go. That's a complete 180-degree bend. And then it's not going to slip out when I put these winds on. I wind with my finger and I always go down in a spiral. So I'm always lowering and tension will pull it back up. And this, there you go, there's 4. And there's 5 good winds there. All going lower and lower. And then just a matter of holding down with the fingers. So we're going to have 6 or 7 good winds around this one. We'll go 4 or 5 around there, 3 or 4 around there, 3, 2, 2. Or thereabouts. Maybe I'm a bit of a traditionalist or a bit old-fashioned, but I do like to see winds around posts. And neat. Do it neatly, don't have them all overlapping. There you go. We'll get to stretching the strings in a bit. So I'm going to crack on, get the rest of the strings on. Once they're on, I'm going to semi-stretch the strings, semi-set up, and then we're going to come and we'll bring you back in, and we're going to cut these nut slots to the correct depth. We now have everything correctly set with the guitar tuned in, strings under tension and stretched. We have the truss rod set right, we have the intonation set right, we have the action set right, or slightly higher than it needs to be at the 12th fret. That's because we're going to cut the nut slots now. So using a 1046 set of strings, we need to match the string gauge with the files. And this is my Hosco set. Can you see that there? Set of 11 files. I think these cost about 125 quid. And we're going to pick out a 1046 set. So we've got a 10, a 13, we're looking for a 17. We don't have a 17, but we do have a 16. Then we're looking for a 26, 36, 46. Closest we have to a 26 is a 28, a 36 and a 46. So that's the right set of files there. 16 is a little bit less than 17, so we'll just slightly flare that left and right just to make the hole a little bit wider. 28 is fine for 26 and everything else matches perfectly. So I've gone slightly higher at the 12th fret, as I said I would, because we're going to be cutting the nut slots. So again, down to measurements. Turn these all the right way. And again, this is how I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way. I'm not saying it's the only way. What I'm saying is it's the way I do it. And I measure my gap now from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. And on this side, the bass side, I'll be looking at a space here of about 0.3 millimeters. To the treble side, about 0.2 millimeters. So again, I will take my feeler gauge. I'll grab a 0.3 mil. We're measuring the space from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string. And this is not definitive. You can certainly go lower than 0.3 and lower than 0.2, but I find that that's standard. When you bar an F or an F sharp or a G or whatever, you will not be going sharp at those measurements. Any higher, you probably will be. Now, we get one go at these nuts. If we cut too deep, we're replacing the nut. No way around it. So we always measure many times and cut once, or cut little. So we have quite a big gap there. So that's something you will find if I bar an F here, it's going to be an F sharp, I guarantee it. And that's quite a sharp F sharp, it's F sharp and a quarter. So if we lower this nut slot down, it's going to be closer to the fret, and when we bar that note, we are going to be an F. So, take a measurement again. Good 0.2 of a mil there, so I'm going to remove the string from that area, take the correct file, 0.046 of an inch, that corresponds to the 46 gauge of string, and we are going to just make sure the file's clean. I know they're clean because I clean them every time I use them. And We're going to take the file and we're going to cut horizontally with frets. Don't dig into the frets and scratch them because you'll end up polishing them again. So nice and steady. Don't go mental. Few strokes, then just one toward, or a couple of strokes just toward the tuner or machine head. And there you go, we've cut a few strokes in there. We're going to put the string back in. It should go flat now. We're now a D sharp. Bring it back up to pitch and measure the gap. And we're looking for a buzz. Oh, that's perfect. Move on to the next one. Looking for about 0.275 on that one. Let's put the file away. Nice and easy cut on these nuts because it is a man-made nut. It's a composite. It's not quite a resin. It's a bit like TUSQ Tusk by Graphtec. Now this one's a little bit lower, so we don't need to go so gung-ho. So we're going to move it across. Again, taking the file, the correct size, 0.036. These cut a perfect U-shape, by the way. And this is why I use these Hosco files. Just a couple of strokes. Then a couple down toward the tuner. And you'll know you've cut if the note's flat. Just a little bit flatter. Look for a bit more of a buzz, so we're 0.3. And then we're going to try that with a 0.25, and that should just be buzzing because we're looking for about 0.27 there. That's nice. 0.25 again with the middle. That's almost there. So 0.265, we're going to clean this one up first, the 3.6. You could actually come down to 0.1 there, 0.2 here if you wanted to. Let's go lowest this side, probably 0.225 and about 0.115 on that side would be good. Let's go for 2.8. We only need a very slight, and that really should be enough. So nice, small, gentle cuts. So this side, quite a bit high on the 17. Again, let's swap files. Just clean that one, put it back in its pouch. So you see how this is working. Now we don't have a 17, we have a 16. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to slightly angle this right and left. So slightly at an angle like so, just to flare that open just a little bit more. So around about 0.24 on this one, so if we get a rattle we're good. That's good. The 13 and the 10 are pretty good also, so we only need a little bit there. And we'll find that when we are barring the F or the F sharp or the G, we're not going to be going sharp anymore, we're going to be pretty much spot on. Just do the 13, just a couple of strokes. Getting down to about 0.22 on this one. And finally the 10. You've got to do this by eye when you're experienced, rather than keep measuring everything. But this is a 10 again. A couple of strokes, that will be enough. Now if that was a bone nut, you'd be carving quite a bit longer than that. And the F from the F shot were nice, spot on. So let's just get the guitar in tune. Once this is in tune, it's ready. Straight measurement to the 12th fret, and we are just a little bit lower than 1.75, and we are bang on 1.5 there. Just going to raise this ever so slightly. We are 175 on the bass side, 0.015 on the treble side. We're just going to tune in one more time. And we are all done. And there we are, fret friends, we are all done, and a fabulous looking guitar. Just needed a proper setup, that's all it needed. One fret needed attention, which is astoundingly good. It's not very often I get a guitar in that doesn't need any fretwork, but finding just one high fret, 16th fret there, quite easy to sort that out. So we've given it a good setup. We've reduced the amount of relief in the neck, there's far too much in there. We've sorted out the intonation problem by turning around some saddles, so we've got more adjustments on there. Everything else about the guitar is pretty much spot on. Personally, for me, it's too light. I don't like light guitars, but it is what it is. And as long as the owner's happy with it, it's all that matters. Nice big fat neck on this, Grover tuners, very well made, very nice looking. I don't know how much they cost. Probably a bit out of my price range. Not that I can't afford one, it's that I wouldn't pay the amount of money that they ask for these. Not when I can go and get a fantastic Hamer for half the price. A used one, albeit a used one, shall I say, but still a much better guitar. But yeah, great looking thing, all done. Gibson ES339, all finished, ready to go back to its owner. So I'm going to put it back in its case. The owner is aware that it's ready to collect. He'll be collecting it Saturday and dropping another one off. We can miss a full setup, sorted one fret out, sorted the intonation out, turned some saddles around, recut the nut slots, given a complete setup, polished the frets, treated the fingerboard, and cleaned the guitar. So all done. One thing left for me to do, that's remind you my website, so you can go to fretfriend.co.uk, even better, Facebook, facebook.com/ng17, that's facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. I am Victor, I am your fret friend, and until the next time, as always, God bless you, be good to each other, and I'll see you in the next one.